It's AFA Today, live from New York, and we're glad that you're with us right outside our windows. The Fifth Avenue cam there in the streets of New York. Very busy day, beautiful fall day here. But I understand the weather's going to be even better when I get to Tupelo, Mississippi tomorrow, and hopefully am with you live from the mothership, the home base studio of AFA, as we delve into Share-A-Thon 2013, the fall edition. It's interesting. We ran with that Chris Christie story at the top of the hour, and I linked it to the AFA Today Facebook page, which, by the way, you should all be part of. If you enjoy AFA Today, if you enjoy Kevin McCullough and want to stay in contact with me, you should join the AFA Today Facebook page. But someone named Robert commented, because I asked, how long do you think it'll be before churches in New Jersey will be legally forced to open their doors for ceremonies or face legal retribution? Do you think bakers, photographers, other small businesses will have the rights to disallow service based on objections of conscience? Is anyone amazed that Chris Christie's hopes for presidential run somehow had something to do with his grotesque inability to follow his own faith in the living of his own life? Bonus emotional goo for this story. Cory Booker conducted one of the ceremonies last night where they started legalizing same-sex unions as marriages yesterday. Then I asked the question, why must such a minuscule minority be given the right to change the whole of society? I don't care who you sleep with, but why must it be that I'm the one that's always having to change what I live, parent, believe, and worship? I mean, you talk about tyranny. Well, this dude, Robert Palmer, I'm guessing it's not the singer. I'm guessing it's another one of these funny guys that takes on false names, goes, I don't care if you're colored, a Negro, he puts in parentheses. This isn't the way real people talk. So you know this is someone trying to be insightful, hateful in their own argument against my argument. He says, I will not let you into my business, home life. Would that be legal, Mr. American Family? What better way to bring people together? Shared hate. Problem here, Robert or Hawthorne or whatever your name is, no matter how much you say it, it doesn't make it true. See, there's no genetic cause that's ever been identified for homosexual behavior. There's no genetic cause for almost any behavior. Do you understand that? There's no gene that says, oh, I'm going to go to school today. No, you get up and you go to school because that's what you're told to do. That's what you're conditioned to do. It's what your environment trains you to do. There's no gene that makes you brush your teeth. You choose to do that because you have reasons why you want to brush your teeth. And who you sleep with is exactly the same. You have a choice in who you sleep with every day, who you choose not to sleep with, who you choose to go out on dates with, who you choose to do whatever you do with. You have that choice. And hear me loud and clear here, Mr. Palmer or Robert or Hawthorne or Bramblebuck or whatever your name is. I don't care what you do in your life. You'll stand before God for your own actions and your own standing before him at some point in time. And if you were ever interested, I'd be more than happy to tell you about why I put my faith and trust in Christ and why I believe that would be a good thing for you. But at the end of the day, I can't force you to do anything. I wouldn't want to force you to become a follower of Jesus. The Holy Spirit and Jesus have their own way of introducing themselves to you. And at some point in time, if you surrender to the truth of who they are, you'll do it, and you'll be glad you did. But that part of it is not coercing you into something isn't what I'm supposed to be about. What I am supposed to be about is speaking the truth. And the truth is there's no genetic cause for who you sleep with. There is a genetic cause, meaning it is an unalterable DNA genetic proof of what pigment someone's skin color is, what ethnicity they are born as, what degree of geography or place on the planet they come from. These are all causes that are beyond the control of the person that is born. What is within the control of the person that is born is how they behave. And so you want to get all mad that people of faith say that behaviors, it's okay to limit behaviors, that it's okay. We sheriff behaviors all the time. We don't let you have random sex with someone on the street against their will. We call that rape or sexual assault. Why? Because we believe that behavior has consequence to it, and that's a behavior that violates someone else. The odd thing about this is no matter how many people you sleep with, Robert, how many other men you want to sleep with, you won't find a Bible believing Christian standing at your door, shouting hate slurs at you. And yet, if we teach our children that what you're doing is immoral or violates our faith code, you will chant the most ridiculously hateful accusations against us that can be thought of. And so the great dilemma, will your sex outrank our right to believe? Will the sex that you want to have outrank the right of what we wish to believe as believers? I don't know why it has to come down to those two things, but it hasn't been the faith-based side of the argument that's forced that reality. If anything, it got to this point because the church didn't speak up when it had the chance. And we may not have one for much longer, so I don't know. But the question I'm asking people to call in on today, 888-589-8840, is very simple. If AFR wasn't here, what difference would it make? And to what degree do you believe it has made a difference in your life? And if you plan to give, why? I want to know the story behind just the actual idea. Let's talk to Kay, who was the first one to call from Kansas. Hello, Kay. Welcome. Kevin McCullough. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you, sir. I was trying to write my thoughts down to speak to you, but I just want you to know, yes, I've been giving to AFR Radio for a few years, and I enjoy it. I need you all to be on so you can keep me going spiritually and Christian. And all through the last 5 years for the political part, I know you didn't want to get in that, but it helped me to make decisions on the Christian view. I try to tell my Sunday school class, and sometimes I just don't get listened to. I just don't seem to get a good response. But maybe I'm butting in on their Sunday school lesson, which to me, Jesus and God, they're both in politics and they control it all. But I just thank you for your program and for all. And can I just say this one last thing?
Yes.
I'm paraphrasing it, I think, but it came to me one day. Fear not what God can do, fear not what man can do, but what God can do to both man and soul. And I think it's Matthew 10:28, but I would have to really look that up. But I paraphrased it, and so our government, like you said earlier, is going to have to fear if they can't stand in front of God and tell what we do. So thank you, and
you're welcome. Thank you, Kay. Thank you for that encouragement. That's one of the reasons why we exist, is so that you do have the information that you need. 888-589-8840. Let's go to Iowa next. I want to speak with Everett because Everett has a story. Everett, welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough on AFA Today. Hi.
And welcome, Kevin. And I'm here to really support you. I'm a Democrat. As a child, I was in Greensboro, North Carolina, doing the sit-in movements, and I remember the blood on my feet from the beatings and the dogs attacking the Christians, the nuns, and the pastors that were there, and the blood running down the street. So I grew up like in a Bill Cosby type Black America and everything. It is very important for you to do what you do. Okay, now I am a Democrat, and I do support President Obama. But let me say two things. You asked the question, and dissenting voices like yours, Kevin, are very important, and they must not be silenced, because you have a very important message to communicate. And actually, after listening to you, I feel a lot of compassion in you. You have a great deal of love and compassion for people. And AFR has changed my position on 2 points.
What were those?
Abortion. I am against it now. And that's because I heard a report about a 3D type of MRI, and we can see the baby and turn it in 3 dimensions. And all the behaviors and things that we have learned about it since, the abortion laws were enacted way back, I think in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken.
1973, yep.
And also on same-sex marriage. I see what that's going to be a problem down the road for heterosexual couples, because you're going to have women trying to seduce married women and break up marriages. You're going to have a whole lot of different issues coming up that, because of shame and guilt, you didn't really experience before in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now one point you made, and I want to help you on this because I don't want to see your voice silenced because we can learn so much from you. There is something called epigenetics, and I think this is one reason why Christianity works. If you actually repeat a behavior enough, you can imprint it on your genes. I don't know if you were aware of that behavior. If you repeat it enough, can be imprinted on a gene, and it can be transmitted. Another thing is that we don't have a gene for homosexuality, but we have conditions that are genetic, such as a bicornate uterus, which ultimately makes a female have two vaginas with a huge membrane, and if you cut it, they bleed to death, so you can't surgically repair it. And we also have something called a Kuber-Bucy syndrome, which is a defect in the temporal lobe of the brain, which can lead to a hyperconnected sexual state where people are able to really control.
I'm loosely familiar with all of those. Yeah.
And,
what's your point?
Well, my point is that there are genetic issues that do impact human behavior. And, of course, we have hermaphrodites. But I think the percentage of genetics that actually would force a person, more or less, or drive them toward homosexuality is less than a percent. I used to know the exact number.
Yeah, it's about 0.037%.
Okay, well, you're very good. You've looked at it right. I was going to guess around 0.4%, believe it or not. That was going to be my guess. And that's about right. So I guess it's still the same as it was 20 years ago when I...
Yeah, and the reason that is, Everett, is because those conditions are, while medically perplexing, they're also extremely rare. And none of those conditions should ever be manifest reason for discrimination or anything else like that. But what's odd about that is, and some of those things are often thrown up as the cause for homosexuality. It doesn't explain how many people still end up being fully heterosexual in their choices of behavior and so forth once that issue is settled in their life. So it's really, I mean, it is one of the weakest arguments that people make from the other side. And here's the thing: yes, epigenetics does exist. And we're not totally sure, for instance, on the issue of fetal alcohol syndrome. If the mother is a grotesque alcoholic, there's a lot of thought that child can also be born with what appear to be genetically or DNA induced alcoholic tendencies. But even when we take a look at that, is the solution ever then, okay, well, the child has that tendency and he's born with it, so it's outside of his own choosing. Should we then give him more of what's bad for him in the process? In other words, as soon as he's out, give him a bottle full of beer. No, that would be exactly the wrong thing to do. So as people have talked about, the genetic dilemma, which is really a dilemma more for the activist homosexual community than anybody else, because homosexuals that live in peace with the rest of the country and they're not pushing a political agenda, nobody has a beef with them. It's the ones that have been striving to undo all of society that are really the problem, and they make up actually a smaller percentage of the homosexual population as a whole. But when you really, really get down to it, they have performed a massive con game on the public. There's been this incredible smoke and mirrors that has been put out there to intimidate people into saying you're discriminating against people on the similar basis of race or ethnicity, and it's not anything even close to being the same.
Where I was going to come to next. See, the reason why I think they made such inroads was because they linked their struggle to the struggle of the African American.
Yep.
Okay, and I'll tell you something. That gave my people in mainstream Black America pause. Because, we've always had deep religious roots.
Yep.
And that gave us pause because we feared doing to them what we suffered through. But then all of a sudden, children start deciding, like you say, the over 99% of it, for sure, probably has a psychological and moral basis.
Yeah.
Which is where your fusion of what you're doing comes in. And I'm quite surprised you had heard of these illnesses, and quite surprised that you do study a great deal. You put a lot of time in this, because the average person wouldn't have heard of these illnesses.
Yeah, I've written about many of these things, actually, Everett, in the past. And what is really interesting about the next 3 days is we're going to be able to make the case to you and other people that have listened to us and maybe thought one thing at one time and now believe something else. And we're going to ask you, hey, help us keep this work going. This work is important, and there's nothing else like it in America. And despite the haters' objections out there, we're not going anywhere. We believe God has called us to this. So thanks for the call, Everett. Got lots of calls left. We'll take yours. Why do you plan to give to AFR this year? Or if you have or haven't, why not? 888-589-8840. And I see my friend Hugh from West Virginia is waiting to chat. We'll talk with him as well. It's Kevin McCullough on AFR Talk on AFA Today. Stay with us.